said, bring your sons back. Don't ever send your son to fight for this wicked enemy. This is why they don't like Farrakhan. To tax the rich who are more able to pay a tax than the poor and the working class people of America.
Brothers and sisters, now, Louis Farrakhan has been calling out white America for whatever it is. Now, he has been calling out the government for using the black sons and daughters that are in the military for wrong reasons, for their own selfish interest. Now, look at the case with whatever is happening in Iran. No one anticipated for this war to go this much because there was no any aggression to it. So let's watch this video, then have a really quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
The price of oil could threaten America's economy. So America has to keep a certain control in the Middle East so that the price of oil may not go too high and threaten America's delicate economy. But America doesn't think that way where third world economies are concerned. America depresses the sugar market so that those economies based on sugar cannot build their own countries by the sale of sugar. America depresses cocoa and coffee. America depresses bauxite and rubber on the world market so that Europe and America can live at the expense of third world nations. America has never wanted the Arabs to have complete control over the pricing of their own commodity oil. But America takes the raw materials of Africa, Asia, Central and South America, and the Caribbean and buys it from the third world people for little or nothing and brings it to America and to Europe and then manufactures it and then sells it back to the poor people at high prices. Then comes the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. So the third world countries have to borrow themselves into debt that they will never get out of. Devalue their dollars, devalue their currency. While America lives in luxury at the expense of the poor of the world. But the poor Americans, the poor blacks, the poor Chicanos, the poor Native Americans, the poor whites are taxed to the hilt, and the government is about to close down even as we speak because Mr. Bush does not want to tax the rich who are more able to pay a tax than the poor and the working class people of America. Mr. Bush, in his hypocrisy, trying to make black people think that he is different from his predecessor. Mr. Reagan did everything in his power to turn back the hands of time. Our brother Thurgood Marshall, the only black man on the Supreme Court, said a few years ago that the Ku Klux Klan no longer wears white. The Ku Klux Klan is wearing black these days. The robes of Supreme Court justices, bringing up conservative legislation to turn, or judgment, to turn back the hands of time. And so when Teddy Kennedy brought up some legislation in Congress that could reverse the evil of the Supreme Court, our friend Mr. Bush threatened that he would veto the Civil Rights Bill of 1990, though no black leader sees it as a quota bill, no intelligent white leader sees it as a quota bill, but Mr. Bush is gonna veto the Civil Rights Bill at the same time that thousands upon thousands of black men and women sit in the Saudi Arabian desert to bleed their lifeblood out for some oil for Mr. Bush and the rich. I said, bring your sons back. Don't ever send your son to fight for this wicked enemy. This is why they don't like Farrakhan. It's not that Farrakhan is a teacher of race hate. It is not that Farrakhan is an anti-Semite or a bigot. It is that Farrakhan knows the truth. That same truth that Jesus said, you shall know, and that truth would make you free. But the difference between me and my brothers and sisters who know the truth and who quake and shake in fear to speak the truth. The scripture said, how can they know except they have a preacher? And how can they have a preacher except he be sent? The slave master's children are not going to send you a preacher to free you from them. Only God will send that kind of man. They are hot with me. But I have to tell the truth. Right now in Las Vegas, 103,000 black people live in Las Vegas. And 25,000 blacks live on the west side, predominantly black community. But 40% of the blacks in Las Vegas are unemployed. And 60% of the black youth from 16 to 25 are unemployed. Nobody cares if we have no jobs. We can't make a future for ourselves. Nature makes us gravitate toward the female and makes her gravitate toward us. We can't control that. That's nature. Nature makes us fall in love. We can't control that. That is God's doing. And when people say they love each other and come into close contact with each other, relationships begin, and from that comes the procreation of human life. We can't help that. But the sad thing is that even though we are driven by nature's law to meet and love and cohabit one with another and to produce new human life, we don't have the wherewithal mentally, nor the education necessary, nor the jobs available to allow us as black men to take care of what we bring into the world. So the black man is under an extraordinary amount of stress. We are dying from stress and stroke, high blood pressure. We are so filled with confusion and doubt of self that we become drunkards, and nobody closes the liquor stores in our community. They proliferate, so we are steadily drunk, dying because we're drowning our sorrows in alcohol, dying because we're drowning our sorrows in reefer, drowning, dying because we are drowning our sorrows in crack cocaine, dying because we do not know who we are, what our capacity is, what our gifts are, the opportunities, even if white folk don't make them for us, that there is the possibility of our creating opportunity for ourselves if leadership would show us the way. But the same government that sends our sons and daughters to die, that same government plans and plots against our leadership. You know, the head of the sperm carries the potential development of that human being. The tail of the sperm gives it mobility so that when it is cast into the hostile environment of the vaginal tract, that sperm may be able to swim toward the egg, that it may start life. God allows the sperm to meet with ovum in a dark place, and the first cell of life is created. And when that cell of life is created, a tiny drop of blood is formed, and it begins to spin in the darkness of the womb, even as the planets spin in submission to the light of the sun. As that tiny drop of blood begins to rotate in the darkness of the womb, because in the darkness of the womb and in the cell at the nucleus, there is the presence of light, letting us know that no matter how dark the situation is, there's always light in the darkness. If we would not despair and give up hope that there is light there, if you can find the light and bring light up out of darkness. When the cells begin to multiply, the first thing that is formed is the head. Because until the head is formed, the arms and the legs cannot be called into existence. So the first thing that forms in the darkness of the womb is the head, and it is the head that calls the other members of the body into existence. And so it is that you are born with a head to see for the body, hear for the body, smell for the body, chew for the body, speak for the body, think for the body. And the body is grateful when you got a good head on your body. So it is with a people. It is God who gives you this head. It is God who gives the sperm its head. It is God who gives to people their leadership, true leadership. Are you listening?
Yes, sir.
Now, I want to make a point. If an enemy wants to keep you from developing as a people, they must keep true leadership from you. Once the true leader is born, he calls into existence the arms and the legs. He organizes his people, and they become a people And this is why in the book called Genesis, excuse me, I'm getting excited. In the book called Genesis, which is called one of the first of the 5 books of Moses. Why would you call it one of the first books of Moses when Moses wasn't around in the Genesis? But Moses was talking to people about the Genesis. Listen good now. Moses was dealing with an enslaved people, and he was telling them, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. But the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, let there be light. And there was light. Why, Moses, would you start off with the Genesis with your people? Because no people that are not free have begun yet. You do not begin your journey to life enslaved. You begin it when you become free. And in the word Genesis is the word genes. Gene. And in the genes is the coding of the human being. Its sickness, its health, its wealth is locked up in the genes. God is saying to Moses, and through Moses to an enslaved people, look, slave, in the beginning God created heaven and earth. That as you have a heaven above and an earth beneath, you have a relationship between heaven and earth. Otherwise, nothing can be produced without that relationship. It is the sun and the moon that draw the water up from the surface of the earth. Without the sun and the moon, the waters could not be drawn up into the earth's rotation, which is called gravitation, in a fine mist that the naked eye can hardly detect, forming what you call clouds. And when winds blow the clouds, they come over a dry, dead earth. And when the cloud is filled with water heavier than gravitation, the cloud distills the water back to the earth, and the water from the cloud touches the seed in the earth, and the sunlight strikes the earth, germinating the seed in the earth, and then the seed swells and bursts, sending a root down and then a shoot up. But if heaven didn't work together with earth, we could never have come up out of the earth. We could never feed our bodies to stay alive on the earth. But it is heaven and earth working together that produces what we call the quality of life. Everybody all right? Just bear with me. So as God created heaven, sun, moon, stars, planets, earth, and established a relationship between the two, God creates man with a heaven part and an earth part. But the heaven must work together with the earth to produce the same kind of effect. What must be in the brain of the human being is what the sun represents. You got to have a mind lit with the light of truth knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Then the body working together with the light of the sun is the heaven. Working with the earth, because the body comes from the earth. The bones are from the earth. The blood is from the water of the earth. But the brain cell can contain the light of knowledge. And when those two work together, the human being can grow up from the earth to become a reflection of God himself. Are you listening? Don't go to sleep, brothers and sisters. This is not too heavy for Las Vegas. It's not Baccarat. It's not blackjack. This is going to get right home to you in just a minute. You sure do. We will, sister. Just be patient. We're working on that problem right now. Sister said we got an inferiority complex. Got a lot of Uncle Tom mentality. She said, help us get rid of that. I told her we're working on that problem right now. Working on it right now, my sister. Now look at what the scripture says. The earth was without form and void. Why are you telling us that, Moses? A slave people who don't have enlightened leadership are without form and voided. But until God's Spirit moves on the face of the waters, meaning when God's Spirit comes among the people, he will raise one up from the people as he drew Moses up out of water. He's making a leader for slaves. You're not going to be nothing in this world until a leader comes up. Not any leader made by your enemy, but a leader born of the Spirit of God. Are you understanding me? Now look, I'm not going to keep you here too long. But what I'm saying to you, Las Vegas, is that every time we produced a leader that could pull us together, the same government that sends our boys and girls to die plotted to kill our leaders. That's what I'm saying to you. This is not your friend that you're fighting and dying for. This is your worst enemy that you're fighting and dying for. And don't get scared. Listen, I don't want none of the leaders to get frightened, because I'm doing the talking, brother. You can tell them you didn't know what I was going to say. But I'm going to prove my point, Reverend. I'm going to prove my point, Reverend. Because I don't want you to doubt me. And I know you don't. You don't doubt me at all, but you may be a little afraid. But I want you to challenge your fear. Because the scripture says the fearful and the unbelieving will have their part in the lake that burns with fire. We've come too far along the road to be afraid today. Because if God is for us, who can be against us? Huh? So look, bear with me now. You know Nat Turner was a leader that came from us. Denmark Vesey was a leader that came from us. Booker T and W.E.B. Du Bois were leaders that came from us. Come on. Marcus Garvey was a leader that came from us. But every time we had a strong leader, the government caused us to kill him or they killed him themselves. Come on. Am I telling the truth or what? In our modern era, when Rosa Parks sat down, Martin Luther King stood up, and he died at 39 from an assassin's bullet. Not because King was a bad man, but because King was preaching against America's involvement in the war in Vietnam. So King was assassinated, and now they name streets for him. You don't need streets and alleys and boulevard. You need Dr. King. You don't need Malcolm X Boulevard. You need Malcolm X. We don't need Whitney Young Boulevard. We need Whitney Young. We don't need our leaders to have alleys and boulevards and streets named after them. We want America to get the hell out of the way and leave our leaders alone and let them live. So by killing our leaders, before our leaders could really do the job that God called them to do, we became a people void, never developed. We got hands, but they don't work for us. They're not coordinated. You got white head on black body. So your hands build for your enemy, and you fight for your enemy, but you don't know how to defend and build for yourself. What happened to your head? When somebody gets hit in the head and they get paralysis, their hands don't work for them. Their feet don't work for them. You call the brother handicapped. Well, that's us, brother. We're handicapped. Our hands don't build no factories. We build no schools. We build no hospitals. We don't enter into international trade and commerce like a living people, because every time you get the right kind of leader, they kill him or they talk about him like a dog and make us kill him. And that's why the press calls me anti-Semite, hater, bigot, because they know that you are taught to love. You are taught that God is.
Hello, brothers and sisters. I do really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you are watching me from now. They really thought segregating the black community will mean the whole world turning against them. They are shocked with the fact that the rest of the world can see the good in the black culture, the good in the black community. Now, we've seen most of the Iranians coming out to say that they are siding with the black community and they have no issue with the black community. In fact, they say their only problem is the orange man in the office. And it seems this is not sitting well with the majority of the people who thought that this war will affect the black community. Now, a quick one. Most of you, or most of the people who are now trying to blame the black community for everything that is happening in the US were once warned by the same black community. How about you start being honest with yourself? You start being genuine with yourself. Like, why will you always try to blame the black? I'm very glad, in fact, because they have been blaming the black community for all the problems. You remember from in 2020, 2021, they blamed the black communities for the problems they had. When we had issues with insecurity, who did they blame? The black community. And for a very long time, The black community has been taking the blame for white America, have been taking a blame for every other minorities in the US. It has reached a time when everyone is for themselves and God for us all. A moment where the black community have gone silent, they have gone mere. They are doing their own things without even calling out other people, They are focusing on their life and they just went silent. And for a very long time, the black community have been the epitome of resilience for America, And whenever anything happens, whenever a group of people face injustices, they always want to confer to the black community. They always want to associate themselves with the black community. They want the black help. They want the black advice. But what has happened? Whenever the black community had a problem, you remember the Black Lives Matter movement, when it came out, most people thought the minorities will join it because they were also being affected by the same thing. What did they do instead? They went quiet. They stayed in their offices, they stayed in their houses, instead of going and talking out, going so that the world could see we are united as one and every other life matter. And they wanted to counter this so much. I told you the government is the biggest propaganda machine you'll ever have. They started shifting from Black Lives Matter to every life matter, And that's how they wanted to counter the movement because it had gained a lot of popularity in sports. You remember some football teams will nail before the kickoff of every other match. You remember that in the Premier League, in the Spanish league, almost in the whole of Europe and in Africa too. The whole world was recognizing this movement. But what happened? They never wanted that. The white supremacists felt like this was a way of black superiority. So they wanted to counter it so fast. And what did they do? They started other movements. Where were the Latinos? Where were the Indians? Where were all these other Somalis who are now claiming that the black community is on their own and they do not want to associate themselves with others? A problem that has happened for years is the fact that they thought keeping the black community on one side of the world, segregating them and making sure that they're oppressed and facing every other kind of injustice will make them weak. But the black community turned these around and they turned their weaknesses into the strengths they are today. Look at the majority of those who turned against the black community. Those who went ahead to vote for this regime. What are they doing at the moment? They are online crying. They are online telling stories of how they didn't know this could happen and how the black community is not giving them attention and all manner of things they have to say. And what is the response by the black community? Silence, silence, and silence. They say sometimes silence is talking. You being silent is also communicating. You're communicating like, I don't want us to be associated with this, and will you please kindly leave me alone? That's whatever the black community is doing. And when Iranians come forward to say that we are with you black people, that we've always loved you, and we want to be close to you. The war between the US and Iran does not affect our relationship, doesn't affect how we relate with you, doesn't affect how we view you, because we know this was not your problem. This has never been your problem. You are not going to, you didn't support these kind of things, And the MAGA supporters are going crazy because no one is talking about them. In fact, their own president has turned against them. And you've heard how he now talks, and how he has gone against almost everything he told them. He told them, I'm not going to launch any wars. He has gone ahead to launch so many wars. We have, there was tensions between Venezuela and the US. There was tensions between Denmark and the US when he wanted to go for Greenland. And there were tension when he said he wanted to go for Mexico. And there is tensions with Cuba now. And right now, the war with Iran, no one saw it coming. You even saw Putin trying to say that them going after the Iran leader was very unnecessary. Like they were in the middle of negotiations. Like there was something still going on. And the fact that he launched a war without a proper plan, now it's affecting the people. Iran has thereafter ceased not to give up, It has said it's not going to give up. It is not going to cease fire because it didn't start the war. Now, the US is drawing back because they are getting a lot of casualties. The people, they didn't expect this. They expected maybe in 2 or 3 days after taking down Ayatollah, the whole regime will be gone. And thereafter, Iran will come begging for US for a truce or for a ceasefire. What has happened thereafter? Nothing. Instead, Iran is still going, is still launching missiles, is still doing crazy things. And the US president is now backing off because this is going to affect his people. Now, since the distance between Iran and the US is so far and Iran can't launch missiles directly to the US, it has targeted its allies in the Middle East, its embassies. Now, see the damage that the people in these other countries, Americans, are now facing. Some things they never seen coming, something that they didn't want to be associated with. You must be careful next time. You must vote in a given way that which doesn't really have to. You don't have to vote because your party dictates you vote that. Vote ideologies, vote policies, and not because someone belongs to your party. Thank you so much for having taken time to watch this video. I really appreciate. See you in our next episode. Adios.